Well, welcome to the healing session. Hopefully, these guys have healed up. This week, we'll talk a little bit about Pittsburgh and what to expect out of that game, and if we're a different team after that much needed bye week. I don't know if you're ready, but we certainly are. I think I speak for all of us when I say we definitely needed the break. And we got to see a couple cool things in college football this past weekend that, we were really excited about. I'm not going to name names, but you know what I'm talking about if you're a Virginian. Sean, Pittsburgh, 8 o'clock game. I think this is our first 8 p.m. game or not?
Starting time, I can't recall exactly if we've had any later ones, but it is a primetime game again. So, no, we had Maryland, 8 o'clock at our house. That was a fun time. So, but first road game coming down the stretch, 2 road games in a row. Going into Heinz Field in Pittsburgh and going to have to show out.
Yeah, so Pittsburgh got roughed up by SMU, a team that we're going to have to play in the future. So what are you gonna be looking at this game? Are you gonna be looking at it from a perspective of how we bounce back from UNC, or what to expect when we play SMU, or if we are just in a slump?
Yeah, I think this is going to be a good opportunity for us. Clearly, Pitt just got absolutely waxed by SMU 48-25, which was really cool to watch that game because it gave us the opportunity to scout both teams at the same time. However, Pitt just got completely dominated off the ball. And, I was trying to figure out clearly if there was one key thing that they were doing or not doing, but they just couldn't get it going. They only had 3 points in the first half, and then they scored some points late in garbage time, but really SMU really controlled this game from the jump.
Well, definitely gave a good scouting video for our guys to watch. Maybe the recipe's out for how to beat Pitt. I guess they're led by potential ACC freshman player of the year with Eli. But, what'd you see that stood out to you how SMU really got after Pittsburgh?
Well, they definitely jumped Pitt early, and they stayed on them. So, especially after that breakout second quarter. So, it's a tough one to really evaluate. But I think what it's going to do, we're going to go into Pitt, and they're going to be ready to avenge that loss because that's their first loss of the season. And they played some really good teams and, coming in ranked. And they are a team that's we got to be ready for. And hopefully we can play up to their level and find a way to knock them off. But I think they're going to come in with some extra bad blood, ready to take it out on that next opponent. Unfortunately, that next opponent is us.
Well, they're definitely well coached, and he is certainly, from what I can tell, Pat is a no-nonsense guy. So he's going to have that Pittsburgh. I think he's going to have that Pittsburgh team, out for blood, if I had to ask. So I think it's going to be definitely going to be a hard-hitting game, much similar to the Louisville game. But we're on the ropes too. We're coming off an embarrassing loss ourselves. We got a week to rest. We haven't seen the depth chart. That's going to be real interesting to see the depth chart come out. I think, we talked a lot about last week the impact of Trell not being on there. I'm guessing he's not going to be back this week either. But, I'm going to be looking for a couple of players to come back, and I think that, we are in a position where we really need some guys back to be able to compete in this game.
Yeah, absolutely. I think getting healthy is our number one priority. Again, you touched on it. Coming off the bye week, hopefully we didn't have any losses on the bye week, but you never know. But the getting healthy, that's going to be huge. If we're going to get Stevens back at center, because clearly we saw that really affected us. Him not playing in that game against UNC really set the tempo on the first drive when we snapped the ball over Calandria's head. Some of the things I'm looking at for this game, our O-line definitely has to improve. So I'm really hoping over the last couple weeks of practice, they've really got after it and figured something out to communicate with these guys, build a bond with them. We just got to figure something. We can't get completely bum rushed on the O-line and be okay with that. We got to be able to protect Calandria and it's going to be interesting to see how we improve on that side of the ball.
I think it's pretty much been said by Elliott that they're not making a change at quarterback coming into this game. That AC is still the guy, from what I could tell from the presser.
And I agree. I had my take on it last week. There's no reason to start Musket. He's not going to give you anything more. He may win you a game, but I don't think he has the same moxie that Calandria has. And when you look at the turnovers, that's the thing that plays Calandria, correct? Turnovers. But again, when you look at Calandria and when he turns the ball over, it's not like he makes bad throws consistently or he's making bad reads. He's trying to force something and make a play happen because the team is already behind. He's trying to be Superman. He's getting flushed out the pocket. So I explained the one he threw against UNC when he rolled left and tried to throw it right. You can't make that play.
I'm really, this year, I don't think he's been as turnover prone as he was last year. And we definitely had he started fewer games last year, obviously. So, and he had a lot more turnovers last year. This year, I think where we've seen him really struggle, and it's not necessarily his fault, is just the time that he's getting, like you're talking about. And again, I think that goes back to, and we talked this into the ground with play calling. So I'm hoping that Dez has a different game plan for him as we come into this game, or Dez just has a different game plan for our offense as we come into this. Now's not a time to continue to try to run the same thing. If we're still banged up, what I'd really like to see from the offense is a lot more quicker developing plays to just to get the ball moving, early, and then work those longer developing shots in. But I think we're gonna have to throw more wrinkles in. They did it against Clemson. They threw in a couple of different wrinkles. Hopefully, we're gonna get that with Pittsburgh, and hopefully, our guys are ready to play at nighttime because we're a daytime team.
Yeah, I agree. This Pittsburgh defense is one that's been pretty stout all year. I mean, looking at their numbers, the most rushing yards they gave up so far this year was 188 against West Virginia. Last week against SMU, they gave up 161, so they're kind of vulnerable. But then if you look at it, the 2 weeks prior, they gave up 63 rushing yards at Cal and 6 to Syracuse total. So, I mean, they are a very stout defense. And then they still don't even allow you to throw the ball that much. I mean, Syracuse put up 321 and SMU 306. Like I said, that was a game of athletes. And some of the plays, SMU would make a catch and then break one tackle, and then they're out to the races. Both of these teams have athletic players out there. So we'll talk about one of them, and I think you brought up Eli Holstein. He's a true dual threat guy that we're going to have to be mindful of talking about going over to the offensive side of their ball. So, I mean, he's rushing and he's passing. So currently he's got over 2,000 yards on the season, 145 on the efficiency rating, 17 touchdowns. So, and he's averaging 257 passing yards a game. Plus, he's getting it done on the run with 305 yards on the ground.
Well, not to detract from that, but, we have the capacity to put a stop to that. We saw it with Castellanos. I mean, he was an athletic guy. He's a dual threat guy as well. So, again, like I said, I think that we can maybe manage him. I think it's just going to come down to our secondary stepping up, and so that we can put, a spy on him or something along those lines.
Yeah, and again, it comes back to injuries. If we're going to get Antonio Clary back in the safety position, that's going to be huge to get him and Sanker back. Well, Sanker's been there, but him and Sanker back together again would be awesome to see, and then that could take some of the pressure off of Kempton Shine. But if we're going one-on-one and trying to stop the run against Pitt, it's going to be tougher, and we're going to leave our corner defensive backs in some vulnerable spots that they're going to have to step up.
As you're looking at these next 3 games, do you feel like part of you are like, well, maybe one more week of rest for a couple of these guys would be definitely beneficial, but do you look at these 3 games and you see Pittsburgh as the most winnable game between Pittsburgh, Notre Dame, and SMU? So what do you think? Do you see it that way, that, this is a game that our window is definitely closing to get another win this year? Well, with exception to the last game of the year, but I'm just talking about to be bowl eligible, maybe, so is what I mean.
Yeah, I think looking at which game of the last three, so just to remind you, we got Pittsburgh this week, Notre Dame the following week, SMU, and then we end at Virginia Tech. Yeah, I think this Pittsburgh game is the most opportune moment because, again, we just saw SMU play Pittsburgh and they dominated them. Notre Dame has been on a tear again, or been on a tear, so. And then, Virginia Tech, they had an overtime loss against Syracuse. But, I mean, they're still up there. If you're looking at what two games we need to be bowl eligible, it's definitely this Pittsburgh game. One, we're coming off the bye week, and they're coming off a game where they got thrashed. So I think that gives us the opportunity. If you can't take 2 weeks to game plan for one team and have a favorable outcome, or at least look prepared in the first quarter, that's the thing that's going to bother me. How do we look in that first quarter? Are we ready to play? Are we coming out there making plays? Do we have a good offensive scheme going? If we come out there and look flat, I'm going to be hot. I mean, that was the same thing against the Boston College game. I think we started off slow after a bye week, and I was furious. You had 2 weeks to prepare, and this is what we do. We ended up coming back and winning that game. That's what I don't want to see against this Pittsburgh team. We got to come out quick, punch them in the mouth, and keep rolling.
Yeah, so again, it's definitely a really important game, and I think the window closes. I really, just to kind of encapsulate it being a successful season, that's why this game is also really important. Because I mean, if you get this 5th win, and I'm just gonna say we lose against Notre Dame and SMU, whatever. I mean, maybe a miracle happens, but that kind of sets up a good story against Virginia Tech, especially they've got a tough schedule the rest of the year. I think they have, maybe one more of them. I'm trying to remember. They got Duke, they got Clemson, and I mean they have us, but I can't remember who else they have on that schedule.
They got Clemson, Tulane. Oh, sorry, that was early in the year. So Virginia Tech's schedule coming down the stretch. They got Clemson, Duke, and then us. So they got
and Duke's kind of on right now a little bit. I know they
Duke started out good against Miami and then fell apart in the second half. But is that Duke falling apart, or is that Cam Ward just taking over a game?
Sure, but what I'm getting at is it kind of
Duke's a stronger team. Yeah,
it sets up a potential awesome story for just the rivalry there if they're both playing for 6. So that'd be pretty cool to see. One ruins the other's bowl eligibility. But going back to Pittsburgh, what I kind of had a moment was, remember, like, it was kind of like last year where UNC was the hot team and we took them down a notch and they struggled the rest of the year. I'm hoping that's the case for Pittsburgh. Maybe we're not the people that take them down a notch, but maybe we add fuel to their demise for the rest of the year.
Yeah, I mean, their schedule doesn't get much easier after us. They go to Clemson and Louisville, and then they end the year at Boston College. I mean, if you look at their schedule, we're like one of their last one. If you're a fan of Pitt, you're looking at this game, oh, this should be an easy win, which is the same mentality that the UNC fans had going into last year's game, and we came in there and beat them as they were a top 10 team.
That's also why I brought up Musket. I agree with you. I don't think that was the case, but he did rally us in that UNC win.
Yeah.
But again, I'm not saying that's a reason why he should start. I'm just giving you a perspective of why that popped in my head.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's just, at this point, Musket's not going to improve, and what is he going to, he just needs to be there in case Calandra gets hurt, or if we're down big again, we're protecting Calandra, because clearly, until we recruit a better quarterback, Calandra is our future. So
I heard Bjorn Jurgensen the other day, what interview he did. It'll be interesting to see what comes out of him. He's doing really well down there in Florida playing. He's having a good year. And I think his stock has risen a little bit. He's our quarterback that's coming in next year. So it'll be really interesting to see, what he has to offer. And, I think it's kind of a little premature to talk about AC's future. We'll see. I think he has a lot to offer, and I'm hoping that this Pittsburgh, he kind of gets out of that funk. But the guys have got to step up and help him out to get him to that next level. I'm curious, though, Sean, do you think this is going to be, if we do win this game, you think it's just going to come down to the wire, maybe walking off with a field goal?
Yeah, this is definitely not going to be something we run away with. It's going to be something where we've forced turnovers against Pitt. They're not prone to too many turnovers. They do fumble the ball a lot, but typically they recover it. So it's going to be a game where we're going to have to play a complete game as a team. And I know if you think about it, or if you listen to the podcast, I keep giving you the same keys to the game, but that's truly the keys to the game. We got to establish the run game. We couldn't do it against UNC, so we struggled. And then when we came to the other facets of the ball, we couldn't. We were behind the sticks. So if we can stay ahead of the chains and not keep ourselves in third and long every drive, and we can convert some of those third downs, and our offensive line steps up, I think it could be a game where we are competitive, and it could come down to a field goal for us. So, but again, it's going to be it's going to be interesting to see how Pitt responds to that, and then how we are coming off a bye week. Because if you really think about it, if you're Pitt, you're going against a team coming off the bye week, that should be a little daunting. So you're coming off a hard-fought game, and on the road, so you're traveling back from Texas, coming back to Pittsburg. So I mean, it's going to be a tougher game for them, but we got to see if we can get these boys ready. We haven't played too many road games. We only went to Wake and Coastal so far, and Clemson. So this will be our farthest road trip of the season, and we just got to get it done, take care of, and hopefully it handles itself. If not, if we don't win this Pittsburgh game, theoretically we could go 0 for 3 these next 3, and then I'll never tell you we're going to lose the Tech. So,
Well, I'll say this: even if we lose the next 4, our last 4, what will be interesting is how they respond, how they play. So if they're all close games and the guys aren't giving up, I think that's a good sign. Because
that's a good sign if you're Elliott, because that means your job is a little safer.
That you have, yeah. What I'm getting again, that's what I'm saying. Like he hasn't. If they play hard and they finish out strong, even if they don't get a win, but they're all close games, they're showing that they're competing. Then it kind of shows that Elliott hasn't really lost a locker room, and it still will go back, as our compadre would say, fire Dez. I still think that change needs to happen, regardless of the outcome.
Which I'm a little disappointed. We're sitting here today and over a week past the UNC game. No mention of Dez being fired. No mention of any changes. Which
who are you expecting to make those types of mentions?
Oh, that should have came out. If Dez was fired.
Okay, so you're saying that
we haven't heard that Dez
actually should have happened.
Yeah, it should have happened by now. Because if you wanted to make a change going into a bye week, you should have changed it Monday morning. Dez, sorry, or Sunday. Dez, pack your stuff. I'm sorry. I try to give you a chance here.
You don't know. I mean, we don't know their relationship, but you may see internally he may have taken his rights to call plays. It may go back,
which
to
we'll
Elliott,
find out.
And he may. And again, I don't. This is purely speculation, but you may see him as a favor to Dez, just being really quiet about it and trying to get him to the end of the year to kind of help him out find where he will be in a better position to find another team next year. But we don't know, and that's all speculation.
It's a lot of speculation, but at the end of the day, this is a football program. In order to light a fire or get a spark that we need, it might be making a change. So it'll be interesting come Tuesday to see if Tony makes any changes, to see if he's going to take over play calling. I don't know if he's had any thought of that. I mean, he doesn't carry anything on the sideline as far as a play card. He keeps little note cards that he writes down his notes on, but I don't know how much input. So I'm hoping he has a play card next week, or he's making some adjustments, maybe calling some plays, because he needs to have his hand in this offensive game planning a little bit more than he does. And I would like to see us utilize Calandry a little bit better and utilize him for what he is. He is a dual threat quarterback. We need to utilize him as such. So,
right. So I think you're going to be garage gating this game. So Pittsburgh, what kind of food are you going to serve for a Pittsburgh game?
I don't know. The weather's getting a little colder. Payday was just a few days ago.
I mean, what's Pittsburgh known for?
Pittsburgh?
Well, they just I
don't know.
That's where they film.
For me, I was thinking
that's where
brisket.
They filmed Batman, but brisket.
I was thinking of
He must
brisket.
got paid well.
I was thinking maybe some brisket. So then you take the leftovers and you make brisket chili.
What did they eat in Pittsburgh?
Ketchup. I mean, this is the Heinz Field, so
Ketchup.
I don't know what Pittsburgh's known for. The steelworkers sandwiches, blue collar men. That's what they're known for. Brute. They eat nails for lunch. Okay.
Well, hopefully their defensive line doesn't eat nails for lunch because that would probably get us in the end. But like I said, we're looking hopefully at a close game. Do you have anything else you want to add, Sean?
No, I think for the most part we've talked about it. I mean, it's going to be a tough game against Pittsburgh, and I think again I'll highlight my keys. O-line has to improve. We got to protect the ball. Defense has to make the tackles in space, and we got to attack the mid-level of this defense. So we didn't really touch on it much, but I think we really, again, I keep saying it, we got to get Tyler Neville involved more early in this game and utilize him more. And hopefully we get Terrell Harris back, because if we get him back, that opens up the intermediate route options as well as the deep ball and frees up Malachi a little bit more.
Yeah, kind of. I know that we were kind of wrapping this up, but that is a good point about Malachi because it's. I was thinking about it and I heard on Cavs corner, Malachi's he's a very good receiver, but he's a different receiver than Washington. He can't just do it by himself. Washington was a little different. You know what I mean? So
well, if you think about it, he was there. He was complimenting Washington last year. So you had another 6'4" guy. Right now, you got Cam Courtney, a true freshman, and then you got Chris Tyree as well. He's not a deep threat. We haven't utilized him as a deep threat or intermediate
That's
threat.
what I wanted to say is also, you're looking, you said you wanted to see Neville have a really good game. And, of course, I want to see all our guys have a really good game. But I'm really hoping that this is the game that Tyree breaks out and finishes strong the rest of the year, just for his sake, for his collegiate career. You want to see him end on a good note.
Yeah, and again, I think we both want to see Tyree do well. And again, I believe we're not utilizing him properly. I think he needs to run some more traditional slot routes than running these screens and everything we're trying to do, these quick screens to him. So hopefully that can work. We just hope we get Terrell back this week because he's obviously a huge part of this offense, and that will lessen the load. So
yeah, that's great.
We also got to give Xavier Brown the ball more than 4 or 5 times.
Yeah, I don't care if it's Xavier or Kobe, but one of them
we need to get the ball
going.
The ground game has to get going early and often.
Yeah, exactly. So with that, if you're not following us on at Cardiac Who's on X, check us out. We'd love to see you out there. I'm sure, we're gonna put up a poll after this Pittsburgh game, just depending on how this Pittsburgh game goes. So look for that, and maybe Sean will take a picture of this $1,000 brisket he's gonna purchase. But anyway, as always, go Who's.
Go Who's.